The vehicle that we use for thinking about corporate level strategy. As we transition from business level strategy to corporate level strategy, thinking about multiple businesses within one corporate umbrella. So this is our definition of corporate strategy as opposed to business strategy. The way a company seeks to create value through the configuration and coordination of its multi-market activities. And what this says, configuration says, okay, what's going to be inside the company? What businesses are going to be part of our corporate whole? And the coordination is, what are you going to do with them once you get them in there? So how are you going to get this scale to lead to economies of scale? How you really, or get this scope to work to economies of scope, both things. How are you going to unlock this value potential that you see? And this is the model that we have for corporate strategy that's analogous to the strategy wheel at the business level. And I'll tell you, the Harvard Business School, for example, is a multi-business organization. We're in education, but if you look at the aspects of education, we're in MBA education, executive education, we're in PhD education, we have our own publishing company. And what we want is that we want to make the whole more than the sum of the parts. And that's what this model is about. It starts in the middle with a vision, which is an idea, just as we were talking about inspiration at the business level, we find this in large multi-business companies as well. GE, with Jack Welch, had a marvelous vision of what he wanted to be as a company, what he wanted GE to be. You start out, it's a simple idea of how you're going to create value as a multi-business company. What's the economic rationale for the existence of the company? The world with you versus the world without you. Why are you there? It's the vision. Then we need to look at the resources, and we're going to talk a lot about that coming forward, so I won't talk more about that now. Look at the businesses. Which businesses are inside the portfolio? Okay? So it's figuring out what the vision is, what the resources are that you have as a company. Because it's the resources that are at the core of the company that determine the scope, determine the set of businesses. And then lastly, the organization, which is the structure, systems, and processes that you put in place to unlock the potential of leveraging those resources into those businesses. So the critical junctures are competitive advantage, that the scope of the businesses is limited by the range of the resources that you have. This is not product similarity. It's not whether or not it's the same industry, whether or not it's the same product. It's whether or not the businesses need the same resources. So can the resources be leveraged to competitive advantage in the business? Then you get, is the organization in place to enable that coordination to work, to get those resources into the businesses? And do you have a control structure in place to manage multiple businesses? So those are the critical junctures in corporate strategy. But it's a system. Just like business strategy is a system, there has to be a vision in the center of the wheel. There has to be internal consistency, and there has to be external consistency. And this is a major change in how we think about corporate strategy, because we used to think about it primarily as a financial portfolio. Think about someone who is a portfolio manager at a place like Fidelity or Merrill Lynch, and they had a bunch of assets in their portfolio. All they can do is buy and sell. And if that was our model for corporate strategy, that's not very encouraging, because what it's saying is that you can buy businesses, you can sell them. But the guts of corporate strategy has to do with making those businesses better, being a good corporate parent to those businesses. That's what makes the whole more than the sum of the parts. The only lever that the portfolio manager at Fidelity has is risk reduction. And the only way they can increase return is by buying and selling. Holding, buying, and selling. They can't impact the actions of those firms. So the portfolio manager model was badly inadequate for corporate strategy. And what we've done here is to connect it to everything we know that you've been doing in the course so far about competitive advantage and business strategy. The 5 force analysis. You can't ever forget those things because corporate strategy just works with those parts. Those are realities. Those are givens that we have to work with. And the whole raison d'etre for a corporate strategy is it makes you more effective, business by business by business. So everything that you've talked about, sustainable competitive advantage, added value, 5 force analysis, all of that doesn't go away. It's still important. But what we want to do is to give you sort of wind beneath your wings. Is there something that we could do, something that we could leverage in from the corporation that could make your life easier, that could make you more effective in serving your customers, could make you more effective relative to your competitors, business by business? So it all comes back to competitive advantage at the business level. And that's what this model is about, is using the resources of the corporation and leveraging them into the business. But we need to spend a lot of time to think about, okay, if my whole kingdom is resting on top of these resources, it's pretty darn important what these resources are. It's pretty important that these be economically valuable resources. Otherwise, you're going to have, the castle sitting on top of resources that aren't going to lead to competitive advantage in the businesses.